let's call to order. I'm Andy Fulton, Chair of the Conservation Commission. I'll call to order the September 8th, 2021 meeting of the Ware Conservation Commission at 7:03. We have, to my left, we have Ray and Mike. To my right, Sherry and Mark. That gives us 5 out of our, do the math, 7, so we have a quorum. And Steve and Bill will not be joining us at the table tonight. Town Administrator Naomi's here, and we have prospective member Neil Kirk in the audience, and no other audience members. So just before we touch on the minutes, ask everybody to please consider what other items that did not make the agenda that you have for tonight, and just be ready to bring those up before we close out the meeting. So first order of business are the August 11th, 2021 meeting minutes. And I'll start off with those with a comment right at Roman numeral 1. We want to change that from appointment to shoreland. Is that one? Do we do that as one word within the department?
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah. Shoreland complaint is what we want to label that section instead of appointment. And that's just for a title on section 1. And then down in the third paragraph, looks like the second sentence says Janet did not have those types of photos bypassed to the commission. I think we want to change that by to a but, B-U-T, but passed to the commission the pictures she did have. And that's all I came up with. Anybody else have edits to the minutes or questions on their status?
I wasn't here, so I can't.
Andy, I'm sorry, did you say but passed to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I think that would correct it for the intent of the recording.
That about sums it up.
So we need a
Yeah.
motion to approve and a second on that?
Motion to approve minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the August 11th, 2021 draft minutes as final, say aye. Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
All right, so we have Ray, and Mike, Andy, and Mark, and Sherry abstain. Thank you. And as we do have a heading here on our agenda that says appointment none, we'll just amend that none to a, we'll just say pending selectmen approval. We hope for the appointment of Neil Kirk. And then we can move right on to planning and zoning board items, or zoning board. And you have some,
I'll give you the easy one first.
easy one would be Mark and
There's
Cynthia.
an easy one and then there's not so an easy one.
Levin Saylor, Gary Labrie, and
Yep,
Randy
that's the first
Pava.
one. So I can cut you to the chase.
Thank you.
So if you look at when Mike opens that plan,
Talk about it.
so when Mike opens that plan, you're gonna notice this plan is a lot line adjustment amongst 3 lots. The 3 lots are necessary, if you will notice, to correct encroachments and setbacks. There's some existing buildings that sit on another piece of property that belongs to someone else. There's some encroachments. So they've done a pretty good job of doing a lot line adjustment, keeping the total's the same, making some sharp lines and some sharp, you might have to just pass it around after.
So the three neighbors basically agreed to change the lot lines to accommodate what they had done? Is that what they did?
Moving off rectangles to some
That up on the mountain?
interesting shapes.
It's up off of Bartlett
Bartlett
Drive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making it unique, but that was a subdivision that's done in the 80s.
Yeah.
And back when the building was booming, we didn't really have, what's that?
That's like my subdivision done in the 80s. where
Back when there was, you know, I think we had
nobody's centered on a
yeah,
lot. Everybody's hard on the side of one, if
yeah,
not
that's
over.
exactly, if you look at up the road,
Yeah.
the line either wasn't consistent or they weren't sure where the line was. So a garage got placed over the line, an addition got put in the setback, touching a line.
They're trying to get themselves sorted out, which.
Yeah, because I
makes
think it
good
makes
sense
it for
going forward.
cleaner if you want to sell it.
Of course, yeah.
It's been coming for a while, because I think I've known about it for several years. I came across with, I think, the sale of one lot.
So the dotted lines are the existing, or are the existing lines?
I believe to be
where the existing-
discontinued,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see where the structures are, you can
Yeah.
see where the dotted lines run through and
Run
around,
through.
yeah. You didn't like that plan.
That's one. Hurt now.
This is the
You
building.
might as
Oh,
well,
yeah, but
7-lot
better-
subdivision,
That's better they
the
could do
wet,
it.
Yeah.
the
And that
wet.
makes it all conforming now?
It will, yes. It will make it right for all of them now.
Anybody have comments we want to pass along on that one?
Good.
Okay, so what I did is on the next one, I started with Ray. The next one you're gonna be seeing is a 7-lot subdivision off of Perkins Pond and Mountain Road. The proposal's to divide into 7 roughly 5-acre lots. I sent it towards Ray, because Ray does a lot with drainage, there's a lot of wet on it. So I just wanted other sets of eyes there. There is a wetland stamp by Tom Carr. He delineated the wetlands on here. Probably should have taken the one without the contours, because he gave me a clean one. Okay,
The
is-
contours, well, I'm used to seeing
There's
them.
some of us who are lost without them.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. So
contours are
here's
good.
the form, sorry.
So you said Perkins Pond and Mountain Road?
Yes,
It's on the corner there.
yeah, is the proposals for 7 lots. Well, the first time it'll be heard will be September 23rd, but I'm sure with 7 lots, there's gonna be some discussion at the fire department. The note on the plan, I believe, just above the purpose, indicates that the plan is to sprinkle, but I don't know that. I'm not sure if that's gonna be how
On
it
the- on
ends
the
up.
On the fire
The
ward
developer's
side of it,
proposing sprinkles,
rather than
sprinklers,
cisterns or
rather than a cistern, but
Yeah.
again, the fire department can,
over.
if I'm not mistaken, on Perkins Pond, if you go that way, there's probably a pipe into Perkins
I think there
Pond.
is.
Yeah,
I think there's down
so I'm
the
not
line
sure how far away it is. Again, it still has to go to the fire department, so.
Well,
Is that on the corner of Mountain Road and Perkins Pond?
If you
Yeah.
go
The
up,
west
so when
side.
you go up, I think it's on the curve.
Is that Danny's that's Danny's
Um,
property,
on the
right?
intersection of Peacock Hill Road,
There we
Loud
go.
Road, Mountain
The
Road,
4
and
corners,
Perkins.
yeah, because there's some on, yeah, there's some going up Mountain Road, and there's some on Perkins Pond.
So, looking at it initially, it looks okay.
Is that,
They've got their 4,000 square feet delineated for each septic system, which is plenty far enough away from all the wetlands. They got their well radius located, which is plenty far enough away from the septic systems. And there's probably enough room to put houses within the buffer of the wetlands upon just looking at it quickly, so. You can look at and you can,
is that new ownership or,
Yes,
I'll just read the notes.
Who bought it?
it says AMS Properties.
Oh, well, that was, Danny's, owned that. His brother's taken over his stuff, so.
So it wasn't that bad?
oh, yeah,
I actually did a pretty good job.
I saw your eyes open.
Well, I compared the size of the wetlands with the
So it's,
4,000 square
two
foot
drives
So I
on
was wondering,
Perkins.
squares,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of room
Yeah,
between, so there's
Yeah,
enough.
right here.
Maybe.
Seen
I'm guessing
worse.
Yeah.
before you get to this
Yeah, we
corner,
have,
they're gonna have
for
to.
sure.
What's the road frontage to each on here, on the mountain?
They'd have to have 200 feet on each one.
Yeah,
Because those are awful long lots.
Yeah,
Narrow, very long.
yeah. Well, I think it's the use of the frontage, so there's no interior road.
Plus
Yep.
40, plus 120, yeah, that'll get you
Mm.
200. Oh, and just mention it's planned by, I believe, Art.
that's Siciliano.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we had 25-foot wetland buffer
I
shown,
think, I did see those.
and 50-foot setback shown on wetlands.
There'll be some, the selectmen will have to see them for the stone wall breakage where some of the driveways come in.
Yeah, they're all gonna have to have a break.
So just, this line's the wetlands.
Yeah.
There's 50 bonds up here, I believe. Yeah,
Those-
the 50 and then the 25's
Buffer.
dashed inside. All right, so it's, the scale is a 100 scale, yeah, so half inch is 50 feet.
There's water there.
As far as this?
No, that's the well.
That's
the well
proposed well location,
Oh, well,
radius. Well
okay.
radius.
Yeah,
a 75-foot radius.
But looking at the wetlands, where would you put the house on that lot right there? I mean, that's got wetlands all the way up front here, doesn't it?
no, right here? Is this where they're doing it?
No,
The
well,
house is 4,000 square feet?
Okay.
That's the septic area.
4,000 is to show that
Septic.
they have a, appropriate size area for septic, so it doesn't have to be the septic lands right there, but in
It
drawing the
has-
subdivision, they have to show that there's room for it somewhere.
I mean, if you're gonna put the house back
So
here, if they're
probably,
gonna
yeah.
do it there, to
Right.
go back. I don't know what that distance is.
1 inch is
Well, it's
100
probably a
feet, so
couple
about
hundred.
300 feet back
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
The proposed driveway, not in the wetlands, not in the wetlands, not in the wetlands, not in the wetlands. So each driveway shown avoiding
Hmm.
wetlands, that some of them do have wet down on the front of the lots. And the lot sizes are
A little over 5 acres, because they have
5
to
or
be.
more.
Five,
Yeah.
this is
506,
almost 7.
538, 504,
Yep, they're in the RA zone, so it has to be 5 acres.
768, or 668, and
Mm.
501.
Also with 5 acres, over 5 acre minimums, you don't need the state subdivision approval.
Okay.
So
Which,
they're all over, just over. Yeah, and yep, some are more, but like 5.01. They don't want
But they have to
fool
have
the
5.
state.
no, your zoning requires 5 acres in the RA.
Try to look at those with the, memory from other subdivisions where we had the thoughts years later, if only we had, this, that, or the other thing when we first saw it. Some of the more recent ones were, thinking back to them, I was like, well, personally, I'd probably wish that it was a standard subdivision and not a cluster.
Yeah, the one next to us, somebody's doing their septic over, I think, in there again.
Already?
Second time,
Yeah.
10
so-
years.
There for a while was a thought, everything's better if you cluster it, but I don't think so.
No, because the cluster makes a shorter roadway, less for the developer. not necessarily are you ending up with the prime area for open, you know that.
Right.
Some of them are hard to access, you don't even know where you're supposed to access for the public land.
Never mind.
Right.
Trying to monitor them after the fact. So.
Right. So there's, you're right,
It
Yeah.
strikes me as a reasonable way to work up a 37-acre parcel for,
It has its
5
pros and
lots.
cons. The
7
shorter
lots.
road, you know, the town doesn't have to pay as much money to maintain that road
Mhm.
when they plow and repave. But the people, I think, from what I study, the people that buy these houses in these subdivisions in the end are the ones that suffer the most, because if their septics fail or if anything fails, they have no room to do anything different than what they have. And if it was in a bad place to start with, it has to stay there. And that's what I've been observing. It can work in some areas, but you have to be careful where you put them.
So if they don't have any other place to put it, then they dig the septic system out and they dig the,
same place,
They put it back in the
And put
same
it back
place and
in
it
and put a
fails
lot of-
again.
in-kind
Sand down.
replacement.
Yeah.
well, first
Yeah, if you
blush at
think-
that
yeah.
looks legit.
No, there's a lot on there, it's just, that's why I said I started with Ray, because he's familiar with the plan reading. There is a stamp on there that's usually what we're always looking for.
Right, that's good. The notes look, not the notes, the lines recognizing the wetlands look good. We got the note on the wetland buffer of native vegetation with no ground disturbance allowed except for planting shall be maintained within 25 feet of all jurisdictional wetlands. In forested areas, no more than 50% of the basal area shall be removed in any 10-year period. Building setbacks. 50 foot on the wetlands, 50 foot on the front, 25 foot on the side.
That sounds familiar.
they're backing out of the house over here where Craig lived.
I was gonna say.
Sounds like their thing.
And it was purchased July 2nd. And it's nice to see the deed reference on that. Come on, there's gotta be something we can take issue with.
Are you looking for the deed reference, or you found?
No, I found that.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see it where it was located. It does, this is interesting, have a little bit of shared border with tax map 410, lot 56, town of Ware. And
Is that the cemetery?
I'm not sure right off the bat what.
Where
what
is
that
it?
Up here.
Yeah, that's the cemetery, right on
I
the
think so,
corner.
it's a cemetery in the corner, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
And that one's been all cleaned up. Nearly,
It is.
yeah, I was up there a week or so ago, it was all clean.
What was it, 410?
Lot 56, yep. Wow. How about that? There's been some attention to detail on that one, which isn't surprising, but I don't think we've ever had more than a 3 lot without some sort of comment, so that's cool.
Looks like they
I'm
did.
gathering that I haven't heard anything that we wanted,
Well, we're not
concerns we
gonna
want to pass
stop it.
along.
We're not gonna stop the building going on down.
Hang on, that's not the cemetery. You said 41056?
Right on the corner.
It's conservation land.
Back, yeah, it's up in the back.
Conservation land, 2008 Mount Misery Conservation Area. Wooded, backland, landlocked, backland off Perkins Pond. It is a
You didn't
8.9
point-
acre,
You pointed to that, so.
8.9 acre.
North towards,
Oh, I thought you had this corner. This was a corner you,
Oh, it's the back of it,
it's the back?
landlocked.
Okay.
You must have bought it in 2008. Because it says conservation land, 2008 Mount Misery Conservation Area. Wooded, backland, landlocked, backland off Perkins Pond.
that's a card.
I read it off the tax card.
Yep, gotcha. And in all likelihood, from roughly here back,
Oh, wetland.
it'll be largely undisturbed, so.
Yep.
The critters don't care who owns it.
Not unless you put a sign up.
Well, that can be done too. None of it will be subject to current use.
Yeah, that's the yellow piece. The piece that's-
So how does anybody access that?
I don't know.
And you
Some-
can't get
I'd
we
have
don't.
to,
Or, you know, nothing's,
Well, if you're going on the backside of Perkins Pond, that's all state-owned, right along the edge of Perkins Pond, it's off that.
but where it's located is right behind all those lots.
Right, yeah, he showed it to me on the corner, yeah.
And this lot down here, 53 is what you're looking at for the subdivision.
Okay.
right. No, not all are amenable to much public access. That said, you know,
It just saves it from
that
being
said, land,
disturbed.
you know, posted lands are posted lands, and lands that are not are, you know, traversable. Unless somebody's been told otherwise. So, I'm not even sure the history on that one, but
Me neither.
it's,
Good friend for a rainy day.
exactly, yeah. All right, well, thank you for prepping those for us to address, Naomi. Moving on down the agenda, there is a letter from the Department of Environmental Services to Mark Bailey, 55 Winter Road. A letter of deficiency noting actions that need to be undertaken to bring a shoreland construction project into compliance with the regulations.
I haven't seen that site firsthand, but if you read this letter, it appears that he hasn't followed any rules at all. It's a big mess.
Well, I guess the first time I've ever seen the legal unit be copied on anything. So something's pretty serious there. That's
It
my guess.
sounds like blatant disregard for the strictures of state environmental regulation, because it gets into the, even, you know, this is uncommon for Wetlands Bureau to step over to another bureau and mention we have some very real concerns about
Yep.
whether the septic is going to be in compliance with what it looks like the new construction is doing to the property.
Right.
So, and that's, honestly, there are two things that ruin waters. One's the phosphorus you get through sediment flowing right into the waters, which happen when you open up the land and don't control the sediment, and then the inflow from groundwater through either an overloaded or failed septic system just adds nutrients to the water that does not result in enhancements to the enjoyment of the water, just general water quality, or especially things that restrict our enjoyment of the waters, like cyanobacteria, things that grab the nutrients and bloom in the water. So it's a real concern. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often that egregious disregard is the rule of the day, and as much as we can,
There's a stop work order been issued as well.
that's the
There
one
was-
you,
There was a permit issued for, as you can see, there was, the impact within it was to raise an existing residence, 2 sheds, a deck within the waterfront, construct a new residence with decks and detached garage, relocate bunkhouse. So there was a lot going on, so there's permits, so we've.
when did we do that?
That was prior to the current building inspector being here.
It was, okay, so a few
So
months back.
the current one put a stop work order in when we got the letter from DES. So he's been stopped. So
And
we'll see.
y'all understand what that's about? That's where the town has some pull. We don't dictate the terms of restoration, but in theory, we could even enforce a wetland buffer ordinance with a stop work.
Mhm.
Well, 9 out of 10 times, you talk to somebody, whether they knew it or not, they'll profess that, oops, my bad, I'll fix it. But it's that 1 out of 10 or
Hmm.
1 out of 50 where somebody is pretty callous in disregard. But we do have a lever as a town to enforce even some of our local ordinances.
I have to
I think in the
wonder.
time I've been on the commission, well over 10 years, there's been maybe once that we did that.
It happens.
Yeah.
There's a place we go to in another town that this person that is developing this area calls us now and then to fix his things.
Yeah.
And every time I go there, I just shake my head. I don't know if they're that stupid or if they're just trying to get away with something, these people, but nothing gets done. The town doesn't seem to have enough teeth to really stop the damages. Every time they move dirt, every time they do anything on that site, it gets worse. And they keep calling me to say, oh, can you come and stabilize this? Can you come and see this? Can you come put a silt fence here? It's like, you're way beyond that. You've already messed
Right.
everything up. But it's been going on for 2 years.
Yeah.
And the town down there, I don't know what they say to these people, but, so now, on the same they own a big property. Part of it's commercial, part of it's residential. And now they've gone in and taken out all the trees on a slope. It's all clay. And they just stripped it bare, and the mud was going into the road. So he calls me up to put a silt fence, and I said, wow, okay. So we did put the silt fence, and I did a double silt fence on the corner. And the last rainstorm we had, all the silt, there was enough silt to overtop both silt fences and still go in the road.
It didn't blow the fences out, it went over top.
It went
'cause you
over
put them
them.
in right.
And
Yeah.
so I told the guy, I said, you really have to understand, if you're gonna buy equipment, if anybody's allowed to buy equipment, so if you're gonna buy equipment and do your own site work, you have to understand how to control your site.
Yeah.
And he just laughs it off. And I tried to explain to him what he needs to do to control the water. I said, you have to at least build a temporary detention pond. That's the first thing you gotta do. Nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if a situation like this, where every time the town approaches him or the state approaches him, like you say, oh yeah, we'll do this, we didn't realize, but the days go by, nothing gets remedied. And I don't know what the town can do to stop that sort of thing. Luckily, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Yeah, well, there are serial abusers who will
You know, I was talking to a guy today up in
not ask,
Franconia.
but might apologize if they're caught.
And somebody moved in from out of state and bought a $2 million piece of land on the lake and cut down 6 big trees And the people doing the work said, you're gonna get a big fine. He said the state came in and said it's $10,000 a tree, and the guy said, that's all? I'm gonna cut more. If you're gonna buy a $4 or $5 million piece of land, what's another 10 grand? So, to us, that's a lot of money, we wouldn't do that, right?
Wouldn't
But
do it
how
if
do
it
you
was
stop those kind of people? Oh, that's all? I'm gonna just do what I want now.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, that's, the reality is there are gonna be times you can't. But that rolls us down into other things. But before we go on to the two listed here, it probably makes sense to hop over to 93 Hodgson.
Has
where
anyone looked at that?
I
I
have
was
gotten no.
gonna-
I wrote an email back to Andy, but he didn't see it, so I had questions.
And did you see my response to
Yeah.
that? All right, so you got that.
It's all wet out there, you know? Just kind of, but, you know, I wonder, because I haven't been up there, but I hate to go up there alone. I don't really like to walk onto somebody's property alone,
Right.
you know?
Not
like you're out
recommended.
hunting in the woods, you know? I
No,
suppose-
and I mentioned this to Ray in answer to one of his questions. If we are going to try to view something for the purpose of, an act as a commissioner, we want to make sure that we have the approval of the property owner that we're treading, the person who owns the property we're treading across. We don't claim that we can, act like a private citizen when we're actually on conservation business. So I've tried up on this one to get some of the information that I think I would need to be able to approach it, and I have not been able to get that information. I don't know the area, and frankly, I think there's a little bit of a hazard in just kind of sticking your nose into something that you really don't have the background on. So I understand that the person issuing the complaint does not, want to go forward, but there's a sort of minimum sort of information that I feel like I would need, not being knowledgeable of the area, and I haven't received that. So short answer is, Sherry, we haven't gotten anywhere.
Well,
and-
that brook comes down across from La France Road, which is non-maintained. And that comes down and it feeds all the way down and ends up down on, going under 149. So you could walk the brook and find the problem pretty quickly. You could come in off La France, I think, and be close. But
That's a interesting idea. In general, though, Ray, is that something you're willing to follow up with? Like I say, I don't think that we've received the information that we can be knowledgeable in talking with somebody at DES about it.
Right, and if we call this person and he says, no, I don't want you on my land, and that ends that, doesn't it?
right.
Unless we,
I've never been one, I don't know how to say this. Well, I've never been one to interfere with other people's doings. If somebody gets in my face and starts questioning what I'm doing, I'm like an animal. I'll defend what I'm doing if I think I'm doing it right, but I've never been one to go and approach someone, even if they're doing something wrong. I just kind of go away. But being on the commission, that's why I asked, what's
Yeah.
my authority? How do we stand on these issues? Because I can't go approach a person and start telling him, you need to do this and we're gonna do this, when in reality I'm wrong, and then we have a lawsuit, which is bad. And then the other thing I mentioned, and I'm in the business of taking care of problems like that. I don't want it to be construed that I'm going around,
Looking for business.
even though I don't mention it,
right,
word gets out, hey, this guy does that for a living, he's just looking for work, which I don't need. So that's why I'm reluctant to march right in there, and because I don't really know where I stand on the legal
Well,
issues.
so the person that made the complaint can take pictures and stuff?
I've asked for pictures, I haven't.
They can't, they
Haven't
don't wanna
seen
go on
anything.
his land.
Well, it's not, if it's not posted, you can walk on someone's land.
Yeah.
Could be innocent enough too, because the deed was just transferred July 9th of 2021
Mhm.
with the new owner.
Do we know where this person came from?
Mm-hmm. Recognize that name? You must in that world.
Oh.
And Sherry, my one caveat to that would be is, I would
Yeah.
be
I wonder if that's
a
a
little
relation.
bit reluctant to,
Maybe.
go for a walk as a commission member on commission business,
Yeah,
as if I were a private citizen, just,
right, that's what I'm
doing
saying.
a walkabout. First off, I want to be truthful, and, if I were to put myself onto somebody else's property who's in an adversarial relationship with a neighbor, and,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
You don't wanna
what
get
am I
shot.
doing? I'm just,
Yeah.
saying hi, I'm going fishing. I mean,
Could
I
ask the
don't want to go there.
Yeah.
remainder of a parcel.
Can the complainant submit their findings, whatever they would want to? Because I know they don't want to submit a formal complaint to DES. So can they submit a complaint to us and then we submit that on their behalf? Or is that, again, why would we want to do that? Because we're not the ones that are creating that.
Well,
You get what I'm asking there?
Right.
what would happen, knowing that we know about this problem and this person doesn't want to be identified? Is the commission allowed to file the complaint and write that we're the commission? Would that get us, boy, I'm terrible with words.
Here's the thing, we're allowed to step in and say, hey, Jeff at DES, we've been told about this, but then what?
Right.
It's like, well, what do you know about it? Nothing. I haven't seen it, I haven't seen pictures, I just know that there's,
A complaint.
a concern from somebody in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I try to turn around on those things and say, well, if I was in that seat, what would I do with it? Frankly, I don't, what could I do with it?
And I'm trying to put myself in the position of the landowner.
So we could
What?
basically hearsay, say,
If somebody
Hello,
sent a
new person
drone
in
over my
town.
land to inspect something, I'd be pretty irate, even if I'm doing something wrong. Because it's the same old thing where technology is great, but it can be used for
Yeah,
not great things. I was gonna suggest, wow, we'll just send a drone over there. Well, no, I wouldn't want one flying over my land. So, other than having the legal right to walk on there, I mean, can you do it with a police officer, or is it not that kind of thing?
well, no, you just need property owner permission.
Right.
So if you have a butter, say, sure, let me show you, come around, walk around here and look up there, and it's like, wow, that looks like fresh boulders in the brook. That's illegal fill. That's not getting the right,
And those boulders have to be at least 25 feet away from the brook, I'm assuming, with the buffer, right?
I would think so.
So if
for,
they
right,
rolled
for our
into the
buffer
brook-
concern, for, State Wetlands Bureau concern. There's some other number or, criteria.
So Andy, if you look up on the tax, if you use our database, we've been starting to attach deeds
Yeah.
as it transfers, and this deed says that it's subject to restrictions cited in a warranty deed at book 5653, page 464. It also says subject to all matters, rights, reservations, conditions, easement, and setbacks as shown on plan number 20516.
20516?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that shows, but it talks about this piece of property being shown as the remainder on a plan titled subdivision plan, tax map 334 for George and Ori Dawson. It was done in '86. That's that
That
same
could mean
plan.
anything. That could
Yep.
be the last lot of the subdivision, and easements could be power lines.
Yeah, I don't know,
Whatever.
yeah, exactly, I just,
You have to
that's
read
just
it.
a phrase that's in there, but without
Mm.
going further to the registry.
Yeah, and
You could get there.
Does that lot, does the property line of that lot go near or through the brook? Does he own?
Well, it doesn't even show any wet on that piece of property on the map. That's the lot right there, looks high and dry.
Show much?
There's a stream across the street, I
Yeah.
don't know where it travels to.
yeah, and
Without seeing it, we can't
So
know.
that, this here is an old class 6 road though, runs right up on the backside.
you know, the sort of information I asked for is, can you give me a GPS coordinate? Can you show me a picture? Can you draw me a sketch? And I have twice now asked for pictures. So I, honestly, I don't have, in my thinking, the baseline information that I'd want for us to go forward on behalf of the town.
No, Google Earth is no help, all you see is trees.
Yeah, right now you do.
Yeah, well, you can dial it back and look at the, what's it, 2011, April 2011, which is a nice crisp aerial. But a lot of unknowns.
But the
What
longer
do you
it
think,
goes, the
Mike?
worse
What do
it's
you
gonna
think as
get.
far as, I mean, you're getting to know the department, but like me, you're in a different division, so it's not your bread and butter either.
I think if the commission came to us representing a member of the town that wanted to be anonymous, then you would be responsible for that complaint. So that we would be responsible for the complaint, and at the moment, we don't know anything, and we've asked for information and haven't received it, so it would kind of just
And
end,
if this
it would end
person
there.
has an overreaction and it's one little rock that went over the banking, we would look foolish.
Yep.
We have to know, we have to see it for sure to know if it's a valid
We
complaint.
can introduce ourselves to anyone, but on what basis? We've received an anonymous complaint.
Right,
Okay, can we see your backyard? Can we see what you've been doing?
yeah, that's, see,
You know,
that's.
I've never gone there, and I
No.
guess at one level, you know, somebody,
Yeah. And it strongly
With
goes
a-
against my belief in property rights.
Yeah.
People just walk, hey, we want to see, there's something wrong with that undertone. It's very intrusive.
I moved here for a reason too. You know?
Yeah.
Um, So, I guess I'd propose this. If I get some information,
So he can't even see the guy's backyard from where he is. He's across the street. So if the guy's
So I just
pushing-
looked, I just Googled on the town map, so let's just see if I can do it on my phone. So, it goes better this way. So this yellow piece is where you got the email from.
okay,
This piece over here is the complaint about. How do you do that?
Walked across the road, I guess.
But there's no stream, there's stream on that side, not on this side. I don't know.
yeah.
It's just
The-
becoming
the-
complicated.
Right, the dots are not lining up just yet.
The stars haven't been aligned on that.
It could be that the guy that wants to complain is just complaining because he's not liking the neighbor. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's entirely believable.
I
There-
just find that hard to believe it's across the street.
Yeah.
There's no stream across the street.
I wish we had a topographical map. We'd know darn well if there's a stream, which way does the land go? Usually it goes towards a stream, which is across the street. So if the
Yeah.
stream's across the street and the land goes downhill from there, there'd be water there, but it's not likely.
All right, so let's see if we get anything on that.
Need more information.
Yeah. All right, how about our other little one over there on Rockland Road?
I looked at that.
Oh, we haven't,
I'm not familiar with the guy's plans and everything he was supposed to do, but
This is one that Craig mentioned to
Yeah.
us.
To call that little dip a wetland,
Right there on the corner?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of pushing it.
I agree
Jesus.
with
I mean,
that.
you got the highway and you got the town road. The town road's built up, the highway's built up. There's a little tiny berm between that. That's not a wetland, it's all gravel there.
Yeah, that road, I mean, when they put that road in, they built it way up. That was probably, at one point, that was all level.
Yeah.
With the road that Walker Hill, which was,
It's like,
Re-
I
pretty
wouldn't
early.
make a big stink about it. It's not a pristine
I would-
wetland.
I would give you this much. Probably not a highly functional wetland.
But a vernal pool.
It may have been jurisdictional wetland, and I think I heard last meeting or the one before that it was mapped as a wetland.
Ah,
Is that right, Naomi, on the?
I'd have to
on what
look, I
went to
did
planning
find the
board?
plan, I did find the plan. Because
so
The-
if it
the
was mapped
original
as a
plan
wetland
showed-
and they disturbed
the
it,
original
what's the
plan showed-
recourse? They
Yeah.
gotta
Well, we can handle
put
it at
it
town
back.
level, that would basically say, you know, based on this plan, we want you to restore it, move this stuff out of it. And.
Because I
and-
was amazed that the plan got approved with, so this to me was trees, right? Here's your road,
Yeah,
and there was a potential sign location right here. Who was gonna look at it?
Right,
They got approved that
I,
way.
yeah.
so, yeah. But if
So,
it was,
do we
if it was
think that
delineated
the
on the
whole-
plan, they did
The whole
disturb.
intent was to be able to place a sign that was visible from 114?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, from
77.
77. That's too bad.
Yeah, so the squiggles around it, and I'm like, why did you even approve a sign location there? You
Yeah.
knew those trees were coming
Yeah, 'cause
down.
technically the sign would have to be right in the middle of that.
Right, so it was a
Wetland,
little
yeah.
higher, but they took all the trees, but then, I don't know why they took out everything. But now, why doesn't the state right-of-way through there is pretty wide?
yeah.
It's 50 feet.
Could you circulate that plan, or at least get it to me, and
Yeah.
if we have it in digital form, or at least,
We
Picture
can
or
make it
something of that.
enough, yep.
if we don't have a PDF, at least a JPEG of,
Well, we can make Wendy can scan the big ones into a smaller PDF and we could send it.
and I mostly agree with you, Ray, that I wouldn't consider that location to be typically of any great merit, but at some level, especially if it's mapped, and a professional said, we've got a pocket wetland here, then just let it be a pocket wetland.
Right.
Don't figure you can blow through it and fill it in. And as far as what we can do as a town, I don't know where it is in the planning process. We can say, look, here, there's something you've done we object to. Please respond to our concerns and, you know, our recommendation for
Yeah.
restoration, you know, could be X, Y, Z.
It's already been destroyed and disturbed.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
if I was
That's
called
a-
upon
that's a
to
fine
restore
point.
the site, I got a picture in my mind what you could do. You dig out that area, that's the wetland, right? Not dig out deep, but
Right.
restore it. Put wetland plants in there, if you want, that don't grow high, wetland grasses and whatnot. If it's truly a
Blueberry.
wetland, those will grow fine there, right? And then all around it, restore the area to small shrubs or grasses and whatnot, and it would look clean. Right now, it looks like a dump. But if you stop people completely from going there, it'll never look right, because they can't go and touch it. But if they had some sort of guidance of what they needed to do to make it look right and still accomplish the goal of remaining a wet area, then everybody would win, because it would look good, it would look
Yeah.
clean and neat, and you'd still have your wet area for, if it's a vernal pool. There are native grasses and different species that can grow in these areas that would, the wildlife would be right with where it was.
Well, I have a question though, is as wet as this summer's been,
There's no water
there's
there.
no water there.
I know.
Well, I
There's
don't,
nothing there.
There was.
there was some, but you know what they did? They took all the brush and they chopped it up and
Yes,
they got
it's in there.
probably a
So
foot and a
Right.
half of chips there,
Yeah,
Here's.
or some amount of
Here's,
chips.
here's just a, generic argument for wetlands. And one reason, you don't just fill them in, is because sometimes the water has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And if it goes into even a marginal, low-value wetland, and it sits there,
Mhm.
well, guess what? There's soil beneath it, there's natural hydraulic connectivity between that puddle of water and the subsurface, and 9 out of 10, or 90% of it is gonna drain down. Some of
Yes.
it will evaporate and go up. But it's not a detention pond, it's not designed to be sealed, and that's where you want the water going. You
Right.
take that spot away, it's gonna look for somewhere else to go.
Or
And water that
Whether
goes-
that is through a culvert under the road that it didn't go through
that
before.
road that went in, I was just gonna say, they've
Yes.
put a lot of gravel in there and stuff, they may have.
Yeah, you're better off to have the water percolate through the ground and it cleans the water
And that
rather
water
than
that's-
flow away.
Percolating gonna be, eventually gets back into the rocks, and
And the only way
potentially
to know
somebody
would be to-
downstream pulls
yeah.
it out for
We'd
drinking
have to know,
water.
was that hydrant B there before they disturbed it? You know?
I think the first thing to see is, was it mapped? And if it wasn't mapped, then, yeah, there are lots of places that get wet, that aren't wetlands, they don't qualify. And we're not gonna turn back the clock and say, well, you could have, or it could have, no, none of that. We map a property before it's developed for a purpose, we have that as a requirement for a purpose. And our point is just to stick to that purpose and nothing more. Even if it's a stupid little low-value marginal pocket wetland, if it's jurisdictional, so what if it's the size of this room? We want everybody to understand, you make a plan to deal with it. If you have to remove it, you can be done, you have to go through the permitting process, and hopefully in that permitting process, any of these caveats can be addressed so that you're not potentially making something that's, surface drainage functional into something that's dysfunctional, that's gonna end up blowing out a road or what have you, on the infrastructure side of floods. So-
Theoretically, they have enough room there to do a 2-to-1 replacement right there on site,
Yeah.
mitigate.
Yeah.
But they have to know.
And I would step back and I would fully admit that it's actually down the hill to the west is where the connected higher value wetland is, but honor the pockets if that's how the professionals map them. And that's why we have, the question that we usually ask for is, where's the wetland stamp? Who delineated it?
Yeah.
So now you're gonna try to backfill when you have a chance some of that. And that one, bad
No
choice of
pun
words.
intended.
And then, we'll take it from there. And maybe, and I would like to, it's not me, conflict of interest, it's your perception. I can't say you have a conflict of interest. I can say it, but my understanding is that's not how it is used or how it's supposed to be used. If I feel like I have a conflict of interest, that is my decision to step aside. It's not my decision or your decision to tell me that I have a conflict of interest, so I shouldn't do anything. There are other ethical considerations to handle that situation. So if those are something, Ray, you don't want to, start attaching, your name, even if it's just in minutes to it, think about it, let me know.
It's more of a thing, and I'll be blunt, I'm not very bright when it comes to interacting with people. I'm just afraid I'm gonna say or do something wrong.
All right, we don't want to go there. And, those positions change over time. If you stick with something a long time, you probably, evolve away from that. But part of what I'm finding is I'm overstretching myself, and I'm looking to find help. Steve has been right-hand man for a long
Instead of doing
time.
this, you want to do this.
There you go. So, what I'll probably do is, look around the rest of you and at this point say, is that something, Mike, you can, help with as far as helping to deal with,
When we deal with stuff
Did-
like that,
well-
are we allowed to give any kind of advice to help them out?
Oh, yeah, we're not adversarial here,
Hmm.
not at all. We are the power of suggestion, but, we need to back it up with with a little bit of stiffness too, which probably doesn't come within the commission, but within land. Probably not even within the building code and enforcement, because we're not enforcers, not at all.
See, I'm
We're
used, I'm
advisors.
used to
We're-
coming up with a
A
solution.
little bit of investigating now and then, but not much.
So, you know, for lack of a better word, the government end of things is more accustomed to putting up roadblocks, and I'm more used to trying to give people a solution and get everybody on the same page, so
Which is,
I have
as
to-
I see it, entirely consistent with the primary role of conservation commissions is be an advisor.
Yeah.
To make suggestions to the planning board, to help out zoning if there's something they don't understand that we might help out with, to, you know, be a backstop for the Board of Selectmen if they wish for a little bit of, support on a conservation, environmental, natural resource issue. So I think we got a next step on that one too, and we will,
Well, we need to see if it's delineated on the plan,
absolutely. yeah.
because that's gonna make the decision of which way.
Oh, yeah, either we have something to talk about, or we step back and say, just shut up, you know. But I'm guessing that, seeing as it first notice came from Craig, is that he had seen the plan, he's like, well, that's,
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be talking about it if he didn't first look at the plan, because he gives those much more time than we do, and he draws those and develops them, so he's pretty savvy with it, for sure. For, you know, what, you know,
It would
his
help a
profession
lot
is.
if we could look at the plan and know what we're talking about on our end, and then I'd be a lot more certain what to say.
Well, Naomi's gonna send that out to us, right, Naomi?
Hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta
And
get,
something for you to
Gotta
think
get it
about, Mike,
scanned.
is, you know, what sort of roles you're comfortable with, because I'll probably be leaning your direction a little bit too.
Sure.
Although, I think you probably noticed that I've started going there, but you cut your teeth here for a while, and you know what the deal is on most of this, yeah. Pretty good. All right, so off of those topics, and, let me just finish with my list before we jump back onto the agenda. I've got 2 invoices since last meeting that I'll be paying for MTL. The big one was for helping with the Toby Hill forestry harvest. And both those are out of town forest accounts, so that's just an FYI. They are, just for our notes, MTL invoices 8-30-21FF, which I received back yesterday on the 7th, 9/7. That one's for $2,718.75. And the other one is number 6-30-21FF for $112.50. That looks like I've had for about 3 weeks now, from August 18th, 21. So committed to records, committed to get it done so they get paid. That's a handy do item. And the last one, before we jump back to other important stuff, not of any great importance, but very sweet, actually. We received a request from a resident of the Bay State for a high-resolution picture of Farron Pond. And this one is, you don't see these things very often, but this was somebody down the South Shore who has a good friend, moved down to the South Shore from Ware. Actually, this couple moved not too long ago, apparently. But this couple spent a lot of time in Ware, named their child Farron, after Farron Pond. Pretty cool. So it just drove home the point that we can interact with the public at a lot of different levels, and these natural lands, these conservation lands, open spaces have potentially significant, well, documentable significance. So somewhere along the line, I don't know when the child was born, a Farron came into the world because of appreciation of Farron Pond. So that was kind of neat. And my transition. In order to have places like Farron Pond, there needs to be oftentimes some level of protection to make them so agreeable. So one avenue of protection is acquisition. We have a couple of acquisitions in the works. The Poor Farm county lot. Naomi, do you know whether Mildred Hall, the Class Advisory Committee, has met on that one? And
Yeah, so on August 25th, they met, and then at the last selectmen's meeting, they came forward, which was August 30th. Betty Straw presented it to the selectmen, which we'd already talked to Steve anyway. What happens from there is the selectmen agree to move forward and have a public hearing. So September 20th at 6:45 is a posted public hearing for the public to come and comment and testimony for spending $40,000 out of the Charleston Ethel Eastman Fund for the financial assistance in purchasing the county. So that will happen. We also got an extension signed by all parties. So once the public hearing happens, I can't imagine they won't move forward on the 20th. Then Title Pro's been working with town council and we'll schedule a closing. But we have to wait, because the thought was, instead of the extension, was to move forward by it and then put the $40,000 back, but that's not allowable.
all right,
So it has to be an equal, so we're just holding, but they were okay to the extension.
Yep.
So that should be hopefully tied up by the next time you meet. You'll be the owner. October. Because if we approve it on the 20th of September, we can schedule closing anytime.
have
Yeah.
a closing within a week or 10 days.
Yeah, I just have
possibly.
to work with Title Pro and the counties. Yep.
Okay. And the other one, I think we needed one more signature for the P and S.
So we got signature today, checks requested, it'll be cut tomorrow. At that point, it's my understanding you're still looking for an appraiser, is that correct?
If the selectmen are still
So I
concerned
guess
with
I've had
that
another
point.
thought on that, I would ask, and I'm gonna ask you first, is everyone's assessment got handed out via letter. So what did the town assess that as, would be my starter. If it's assessed at $450,000, I don't know why we need to spend some money on an appraisal. That's my looking at things. Because supposedly we're supposed to be at 100% market value come this fall.
All right, so and I believe the number I remember is 241.
See, I don't know what the letter was. You know how y'all get a letter telling you what your new assessment's gonna be?
As in this year?
Yep. You bypassed your motion to appeal.
Well, hey, it is what it is.
So Avatar, we're in the middle of
Is that
reevaluation.
reflected in our database at this point?
No, well, they have the database, we haven't turned it live yet. So
All
what
right.
there was we sent out letters to everybody and says your new assessment's gonna be this. Well, of course,
okay.
everybody turned everybody upside down because they tried to take their new assessment by the current tax rate. And what happens is the assessments obviously go up, but it's truly been kind of a crazy market.
Yeah.
So, if your property went up 30 or 40%, according to the state of New Hampshire, that's in line. So I don't know what the letter would have been to him.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. So my thought was I could ask Avatar for a copy of the letter, see where it is, and see if the selectmen, if it's over the asking price, if they would consider that market value. It's their assessors.
Mm-hmm.
We've already done some work. That's just my first thought.
No, that's a good thought. That is,
Because I saw the price. It's
Yeah.
kind of a little pricey for what you're looking for.
yeah,
So my thought was, this thought was to see, they did the whole town.
Mm.
You're already paying for that as a taxpayer and everything else. Let's see what it looks like first stab.
yeah.
And if it's 300 or over,
Then I think you just say, hey, this is what Avatar says it's worth.
yeah, they've just done the assessment, so.
You can
When-
look
when
at,
do- when
and
does
you can
that-
look at some
When does that
comparables.
that work become town property, has it not?
Well, so what, we had a period of time where you could come and ask questions about it.
Yeah.
And then a second round of letters went out. And then once the second round of letters is done, I think we're almost to open up the whole, meaning you can go look at mine, yours, and everybody else's,
Yeah,
and see where we are. But we're not quite there yet. So I'd like to see what it looks like. That would be
Right.
kind of a inexpensive way of doing it,
right.
but it may work in.
But, and that is certainly.
You
No,
also
it's
you also can
inarguable
look
that
at-
it's been professionally done.
You just looked at 7 lots
Yeah,
Mm.
with all road frontage. Let's see what that was sold for. Right? It's not 114, but it's still all road frontage, and I think there's a lot of road frontage with the parcel.
Hmm.
Is that right?
right, well, that's the information I shared in the email.
Right, but I'm just
Which
saying, we've got
included-
live data that just got bought in July of something with all road frontage that wouldn't require an internal street. So
Right.
it's kind of like that. Not as many acres, but let's see what they paid for it.
I can tell you what they paid for it. All right, no, I can't.
One you just
Sorry.
looked at.
I can
Yes.
tell you what it was listed at when
Right.
listed pending.
Yeah, but I don't know what they actually paid.
True. Yeah.
So if Wendy could find that out, what they paid too. And let's see where we are.
It's a pretty reasonable comp, except that it's fewer acres. It's less than half the
It's
size.
fewer acres, but it's
Yeah.
all frontage.
Yeah.
There's no internal road, there's no cost that way.
Right? And, that one up there on 114 is a lot of
Right.
frontage.
Right, so that was my approach to the easy way, but I like to try to cut to the chase.
Well, it seems to be, in this day and age, probably trying to find an appraiser would take a long time. They're
Well, I
very
think it's
busy.
time too, just like anything. The parts, anything in this
I could
world is
maybe
taking
get to it in
forever.
November. It's not gonna cut it.
No.
And I think, couldn't find the paper that Bill shared with me a couple months ago. He passed across and said this was, briefly on the market for significantly more than what we're trying to secure it for. So,
Was it on the market? Because you can go back and do that, even if it says, it'll say off the market. But, I just-
I would really appreciate it, and I think it would be really, very much in the town's interest if, between you and Wendy, there could be a little bit of research to, acquire that information and share it with the board.
well, then we're meeting on
And
the
I
20th.
know they're not looking to, force expenditure of
Mhm.
town forest or conservation money unnecessarily.
Right.
They just wanna make sure that it's not unreasonable and
Yeah.
nobody's, standing on a soapbox shouting, this is not reasonable.
Right.
But, it's a proof.
No, I think that's an in-house way of doing it, kind of to the chase.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. What I'll do is, I'll let you know, but don't reply to me, makes a meeting. It's all informational. If I send the information out to you, just don't all reply to me, it just makes a meeting. I can send you information, I do it to the board. Just don't email me back, if you got a question, you can call me.
Yeah.
But emailing all of us makes a meeting.
Mhm.
With it, we haven't posted. I can share all the information I
Bottom
want.
line on that is, right, sharing information is different than sharing opinions
Yeah.
and developing a, decision.
Yeah,
We
because
don't
I'm
develop
gonna share you the
decisions.
plan, I'm gonna share you the letter, I'm gonna share you the price. But even from there, I still have to go to the board with it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted everybody to know, don't reply. Just makes a meeting and it makes life terrible.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have something tonight? And down here? All right, folks, let's wrap this thing up. Let's have our last motion.
Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Didn't I motion it last time too? I seconded it. I don't want to sound like.
All right.
Mark, you wanna?
All in favor of adjourning the meeting at 8:13, say aye.
Aye.
Done at 8:13.